All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to send all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passion with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. We at Chin Check Sports Radio are your go-to on YouTube for Dallas Cowboys coverage throughout the season as well as the off-season. We're going to continue right along. Week 14 loss on the road to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's get into our numbers here before we get real deep with it. Quarterback Dak Prescott, 23 of 30 attempts, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tony Pollard, 19 carries, 75 yards. Ezekiel Elliott, 16 carries, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches, 126 yards. Noah Brown, 6 catches, 49 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard, 4 catches, 31 yards. Tight end Peyton Hendershot, 1 catch, 20 yards, and 1 touchdown. Damon Clark on the defensive side, 9 total tackles, 5 solo. Anthony Barr, 7 total tackles, 6 solo. Jaron Kearse, 7 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Trevon Diggs, 7 total tackles, 5 solo. Deron Bland, 6 total tackles, 4 solo, and 1 interception. Malik Hooker, 5 total tackles, 3 solo. Deshaun Wright, 4 total tackles, 3 solo. Donovan Wilson, 3 total tackles, 3 solo. Carlos Watkins, 3 total tackles, 2 solo. And we'll get to the defense in a minute. For those of you who are listening, whether you're listening tonight or my good buddy of mine, Antoine, you said you plan on listening to this tomorrow. So definitely, brother, while you're sitting down, enjoying your glass of juice or your protein shake as well as your bagel, go on and definitely sit back and listen to this, what we're going to discuss. The Dallas Cowboys, a rather disgusting loss on the road in a game that they were leading 21-7 at halftime. Let me say this again. The Dallas Cowboys were leading this game 21-7 at halftime. At one point, they were up 27-10. Now you're asking yourself, Chin Check, then how the hell did they lose 40-34? Well, we at Chin Check Sports Radio do not gloss over wins, nor do we overreact to losses. But what we do is we tell the honest and unabashed truth. Let's discuss where things went bad. The Dallas Cowboys first started off where, as they were getting turnovers and they were getting defensive stops, they were settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. First red flag. Because mind you, in the first half, the Cowboys are running the football pretty much seemingly at will. The touchdown pass to Peyton Hendershot was a great pass and a great catch by obviously Dak Prescott and Peyton Hendershot. But all that was set up by the running game. The returning Tyron Smith, who split action with Jason Peters at right tackle. So you have 2 first ballot Hall of Famers at right tackle. So clearly they wanted to keep the continuity, especially on the left side of the line. You have a right guard, Zach Martin, who's going to the Hall of Fame, and another tackle that's right next to him that's going to the Hall of Fame, whether it's Peters or Tyron Smith. So that's okay. We'll take that. But the Cowboys are running the football. Then for some reason, like always, they have these low, and Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator, has these mental lapses where he forgets our bread and butter is the running game. He wants to get away from the run and all of a sudden wants to start putting the ball in Dak Prescott's hands. But even still, they were okay. But you start noticing that now the third quarter, now they're passing the ball going into the fourth quarter. But here we go. So while the Cowboys are floundering on offense, you're starting to see the Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Trevor Lawrence, starting to pick the pace up. And Trevor Lawrence, who did nothing in the first half, ended up throwing 4 touchdowns for the rest of the game. And you wonder why. Well, let's just say, and we set this for the last week, Cornerback Kelvin Joseph is under an evaluation period due to the injury of one Anthony Brown. And we said, despite drive-by shootings, despite poor offseason decisions, this is his one and only shot to prove to us whether he can even be on the football team, because the Cowboys would have been well within their right to cut him in the offseason. They stuck with him, and this is the return that we're getting on our investment. Keep in mind, this guy was drafted in the second round with off-the-field issues, being kicked off the LSU team, going to Kentucky. There are clearly some red flags there, and we see this guy seems to be severely overmatched. This is the problem. This man was beaten for 2 touchdowns, and one of them was on a bad double move where it wasn't even close. He got smoked, and those were your 2 touchdowns right there. That man, again, this is an evaluation period. What we're seeing right now, the evaluations is not going according to plan, and these are piss poor reviews on his evaluation. And we said this last week. If this guy does not step up to the plate in his time to shine, they need to get his ass out the door. And again, so far, the returns and the reviews are not good. What else went wrong for the Cowboys in this game? We left one name out when we did the defensive stats, and that was one Micah Parsons. Now, this past week, Micah Parsons decided to make comments about Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, whether he should be an MVP candidate or not, saying, it's a product of the great team around him and his system around him. Is he really a Hall of Famer? I'm sorry, an MVP candidate, excuse me. And we said it then. Micah Parsons is talking too damn much. He needs to mind his own business and worry about the Dallas Cowboys. Because Micah Parsons in this game had 2 total tackles, 1 solo, 1 sack. Now you're going to say, well, chin check, the man has 1 sack and he has 13 for the season. Yeah, but the problem is that sack came in the first half, and when the defense needed a stop, when the defense needed a big play, Micah Parsons was nowhere to be found. Micah, keep your damn mouth shut. Don't worry about what Jalen Hurts has going on, and I'm going to need for you to step up to the plate, because there was no play for Micah Parsons when the second half defense fell apart for the Dallas Cowboys, even you included. Now, some of you are going to say, well, chin check, he did have that fumble recovery that could have sealed the game. We'll get to that in a second. Actually, let's get to that right now. If you forget, that play was a long play where they were going, where they were trying to go for field goal range. And as Trevor Lawrence scrambles, gets out of the grasp of the pass rush, just totally escapes the pass rush, with a few times they were existent in the second half, is sprinting down the field. And I'm going to say it was was it Jaron Kearse that caused the fumble, and it really was by a tackle that he just happened to make contact. The ball pops loose, and Micah Parsons, yes, we'll give him credit for the hustle, but kind of being at the place at the right time and falling on the fumble. The Dallas Cowboys get the ball back, and you would think at this point the game is over. After the Cowboys, again, they drove the ball for a nice touchdown catch to Noah Brown. Now the Jaguars had the ball back, so you would think at this point the Cowboys, all the momentum is on their side. They're going to do something with this possession, and they did absolutely nothing with it. And we kept saying it on that 3rd down and 10. Why are they passing the ball when it should have been running the football, which would have melted time off the clock and made the Jaguars burn a timeout? But again, these mental lapses of Kellen Moore forgetting to run the ball, or obviously not understanding where he is on the field, those questionable play calling again tends to come up when it matters most, and that was a prime example right there. Had he run the football, you make the Jaguars burn that final timeout. Now they're rushing to try to get that last second field goal. And it's little things like this, those lapses in the 3rd quarter, and when you're not running the football. If you go back to that touchdown drive that put the Cowboys ahead, that was fueled by the Cowboys running game. So again, folks, I don't know if the Cowboys coaches are not looking at since everything is about analytics and numbers and stats, when the Cowboys run the football and keep the ball out of Dak's hands, because these are where some of these turnovers come into play, whether it's a poor pass by Dak or whether it's whether it's pressure in his face or balls bouncing off the hands and chests of wide receivers. When you're running the football, good things tend to happen. Cowboys fans spent the last couple of months arguing whether Zeke or Tony Pollard was a better back or who should be back number one, and for some reason within the Cowboys coaching staff, namely Kellen Moore, forget that you have not one but two solid running backs. When you put the ball in their hands, good things tend to happen, and you take the ball out of Dak's hands, which can reduce the turnovers. Because for some reason, since coming back, Dak Prescott has become an interception machine, and he was not that way when he first came to the league, but it's something this season where he is prone to having a lot of interceptions, and those things cannot happen. These are things that have to be cleaned up. Kelvin Joseph, again, he is under evaluation this season. Things not looking good. If things don't improve, get him the hell out of here. Kellen Moore, run the football. You are a running football team. Stop trying to make Dak Prescott Patrick Mahomes. Stop trying to make Dak Prescott something that he isn't. He is a good quarterback, an above average quarterback. That's not saying he doesn't have to be an elite quarterback. You can have a good to average to above average quarterback and win a lot of games and have a playoff push. But this thing trying to make him a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes, Dak is not that. Run the football, be economical. While your run game, again, you have 2 Hall of Famers at any time on your offensive line. 3 if you really want to put all 3 of them in there. You have an offensive line that's making it happen, that was dominating the Jaguars defensive line, especially in the first half. Running the football, grinding on them. When you stop running the football, when now you become passing the ball, now guess what? You lengthen the game, you get stops, now they're energized, especially playing in that Jacksonville Heat. So again, it's those things of what we're talking about is why the Cowboys at this stage are not mature enough for any sustained playoff push. And Michael Strahan on the Fox Sports halftime show was saying the Cowboys are up 21-7. These are the games that elite teams are supposed to finish, and they're supposed to keep their foot on their neck, and they sat up there and they pissed this game away. Again, Micah Parsons. While you worrying about what Jalen Hurts has going on, you did nothing in the second half except be at the right place at the right time. And with the Philadelphia Eagles having a rough game on the road against the Chicago Bears in the cold, they did what they had to do to win the football game while your team didn't. Micah, we love you. Mind your own damn business. I know you're best buddies with Von Miller, but Von Miller is a first ballot Hall of Famer. You don't have those credentials yet. You're not in the stratosphere of a Von Miller yet. Keep your damn mouth shut and please keep grinding. Yes, you're great. You've done everything you're supposed to do, but these are the games where we expect you to step up and you didn't do anything because you're worrying about the wrong thing. Folks, now going forward, we have to be honest with ourselves. Again, we're not going to overreact, but we have to call it like we see it. This team that you saw today, the pass rush has been non-existent. If you really go even back to the Texans game, last rush has been non-existent. And what's even more concerning about this game, I believe they're playing against the Jaguars' backup tackles. And this pass rush with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong has sustained an injury, but we saw him back in the game. Sam Williams, Dante Fowler couldn't really get pressure on backup offensive linemen, which makes you wonder going forward. And speaking of Leighton Vander Esch, apparently he suffered another neck injury, and now Anthony Barr was being exposed in coverage. So those are the things that we're talking about. But again, we're of the attitude, next man up, because we don't have time to be playing. We've seen this before when Vander Esch has missed time via neck injuries. We wish him a speedy recovery, but we don't have time for our defense to fall apart. And they fell apart a little bit today. They have a chance to right the ship. But again, the defense really got exposed today, not being able to get the stops. Secondary in disarray. Everybody except Trevon Diggs. These are serious problems. Now going forward, ask yourself, this team that we saw today, if they brought that same team, lack of commitment to the running game, on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, at home on Christmas Eve against the Eagles, they're going to get smoked. They cannot have these turnovers. They cannot have these things, and they're going to get smoked. Those things they have to stop. Again, let's think long-term again. Right now, and what's even more disappointing about this game, the Cowboys could have clinched a playoff spot winning this game. So right now, the Cowboys still have not clinched the playoffs yet. Let that sink in. If the playoffs were to start today, they'd be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Does anybody really believe that Tom Brady won't pick apart that Dallas Cowboys secondary or the Dallas Cowboys pass rush that really couldn't do anything today? The greatest quarterback of all time. It's just something to keep in mind. Keep in mind, they've never beaten Tom Brady. They were embarrassed by Tom Brady in week 1. And again, with this pass rush today, could they do anything with Tom Brady on the road at Tampa Bay? Let that sink in. Against the Philadelphia Eagles next week, this Cowboys team that showed up to play would get smoked by that Eagles team. And that's sad to say because you would think with the first game, playing Cooper Rush, playing that backup quarterback, but we have Dak Prescott throwing interceptions, when you have the running game being abandoned, much like what happened the first time they played Philadelphia. The Eagles can be ran on, but for Kellen Moore, again, has these lulls and mental lapses about running the football. Now, since they've cleaned some of the penalties up, now all of a sudden they're turning the ball over. These are things that if you want to, you're talking about Super Bowl and deep playoff runs. At this stage in December, these type of things should not be happening. So we'll wait and see what happens on Christmas Eve against the Philadelphia Eagles. And until the next time, it's Chin Check Radio, signing out.